So hello everyone and welcome to an honest and real conversation with Tampa Bay Black event professionals powered by Empower Events Tampa Bay. I am so grateful that you are all here along with this amazing panel. So thank each and every one of you guys for joining us this evening. My name is Anna Lucia Richardson. I am the founder of Empower Events Tampa Bay Initiative and the owner and the executive planner and designer of Anna Lucia Events here in Tampa. For those of you who do not know what Empower Events is about, it is an all-volunteer, equal opportunity initiative that launched back in mid-May in response to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic in our industry. It is an emergency grant program to assist eligible employees, freelancers, and or subcontractors in the special event hospitality industry who have either been let go or placed on furlough due to the pandemic. To date, we have fulfilled over 220 plus grants nominations, and to those who've either been nominated and qualified. Our overall goal is to not only offer financial relief, but to provide a support system within our industry by creating an empowering platform that will bring our Tampa Bay area event and hospitality market together. We hope to also help bring all of our collective voices to current topics in a very productive manner, such as the ongoing current challenges that many of our Black professionals within our industry have and continue to face. We hope that these open and real conversations amongst our colleagues will help open our eyes to show how much stronger that we are when we work together, build inclusivity, and above all, support one another. So we encourage your questions this evening, and we hope that you will work with us towards being part of the solution moving forward. With that, I'd like to introduce to you our moderator for the evening, Noor Zufari, founder of Noor Zufari Creative.
Thank you, Anna. I would like to begin tonight with a deep breath before and after our moment of silence to honor the slain. In particular, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, who would be 27 today, George Floyd, Tony McDade, and too many others whose deaths have sparked a revolution. We want to honor the protesters marching for solidarity and equality, and for those doing the staggering work of bringing justice, not just these 2 weeks, but for years and years tirelessly, whose jobs have increased exponentially and with no recognition. So if you please take a deep breath with me and have a moment of silence for a few moments. And another deep breath. My name is Noor Zufari. I am an event professional based here in Tampa. I've been in events for about 11 years. I'm a Muslim Arab American, and as you can see, I'm white. I can acknowledge my white privilege, and I acknowledge that I have an equal part in the problems in our community. It isn't me trying to win favor or say that I'm fixed. I share it to say that I recognize the bias in all the communities that I represent. You'll likely see me get emotional, and I invite everyone to feel what they're feeling so that we can move forward from this and start to heal the scars. We plan for this to be the first of many conversations from Empower Events Tampa, so that when and as we do go back to business, whatever that looks like, we course correct what is a deeply rooted, malformed system. As I've said many times over the last few months, we are rightfully being forced to self-examine our personal and professional selves. The panel in front of you are distinguished professionals in the event industry in the Tampa Bay area. We're so grateful for you, for your time, for your gracious wisdom. Most of all, just what you contribute to each of us, honestly. I hope you're completely honest with us. Don't pull any punches, and don't worry about our feelings because sugarcoating won't do us any favors. And likewise, for anyone joining us, we invite you to give us any productive contributions. So I'd like to call on each of our panelists to introduce themselves. If you'll tell us your name, your company name, what you do, and how you got into events. Philip, if you'll start us off.
My name is Philip with Philip Lloyd Photography. I've been in the wedding industry for about 25 years now. So it's been a long time, it's been a while. And I enjoy it, I love it. I got into it because two gentlemen by the name of Travis and Monroe dragged me into the wedding industry, kicking and screaming. I had no interest in doing it, but they wouldn't leave me alone. So I decided, okay, I'll give it a shot, and it's been love ever since. So, so yeah, I've been doing this for a while, and I love what I do.
Wonderful. Georgette?
Hi, my name is Georgette, and I am the owner of Peter Tree Events. I am a multicultural wedding planner. I've been in business for 7 years, and I started because, I wanted to. I was supposed to be going to med school, and I didn't want to go anymore. So I was like, nope, I need to do something else with my life. So that's how I got in. So yeah.
Jason and Antonio?
Hey guys, so my name is Jason Saunders, and this is my partner and fiance, Antonio Bell. So together we run Jason's Creations, wedding and event floristry. We're based out of Tampa, Florida, and we are going on we're going on our fifth year in business for Jason's Creations. It kind of started, long story short, I moved here to do interior design work, and was part-time working at a florist, and realized my passion for floral design, doing daily work, and like your everyday florist. And it quickly shifted to my main focus was on brides and weddings, and that's where I really found my joy. Just seeing the bride's eyes light up when we just hand deliver the bouquets. And I came home from a shop one day that I was working at, and was talking to Antonio, and we'd always kind of brainstormed about how can we do this on our own. This is what we love to do. So we
and he had an amazing talent, so we concluded, instead of enriching others, we'll try to enrich our own little family. And so that's what set the plan in play. And 4 years later, we're here doing it. We've been growing ever since, and really enjoy working together. And he's an amazing designer, and I just prop him up from the back. I handle all the admin, and
he's the business.
I'm the business end of things, except on wedding day, and that's when I turn into his assistant. Gets to boss me around on wedding day.
We all need those. Kamari?
Hi, I'm Kamari. I'm with Kamari Lynn Films. My husband's also my second tutor, so we're a husband and wife team based in the Tampa and Southwest Florida area. We love making wedding films. I actually started because I went to film school, worked in the film industry, and then transitioned into weddings when we were planning our own wedding. So we're about 5.5 years into the business now, and we decided to transition into weddings because my husband didn't really want to move to LA or Atlanta with me, and I was like, well, long distance marriage, don't know about that. That wouldn't have been good. So found weddings and loved it, and have been doing it ever since. So I love doing it. Thank you.
Awesome. Nick Pruitt.
Hey guys, my name is Nick Pruitt. I'm an event specialist in Tampa. I've been doing it for 9 years now, to this day, actually.
Oh, wow.
I moved to Florida from Birmingham.
Congratulations.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It's a great day.
It's a great day.
It is, yes sir. I moved from Birmingham with the intent just to start over here in Florida. I moved with my girlfriend, who's now my wife. We've been together for almost 20 years now. Now we have 2 kids, and we've been able to build a pretty good life here. I started working in an entry-level position in a warehouse for an event company, and I actually found them through Craigslist. I called the number. I didn't really know what the job entailed. All it said was you travel, you get to meet new people, and learn something new. And I was like, I want to make some money. So I went in and had an interview. And it took almost a year, maybe a little under a year, and I was almost managing events on my own. able to pre-pull and basically do everything needed to make an event go off. Since then, I've been a freelancer for almost 4 or 5 years, and mainly working with companies throughout Tampa, St. Pete, really throughout Florida, and then out of town as well. I specialize in, I love doing drape. There's nothing better than doing an awesome drape treatment and then looking at it and being like, no, that looks good, you know? And florals, I like doing, I like to be good at a little bit of everything, like a, you know, what do they call it, a Renaissance man, more of a, I love my life. I love what I do. It's been hard not being able to go to work and see my friends and meet new people. And, you know, I miss it. I miss it a lot, but I'm looking forward to the day we get back to it. So.
Here.
For real.
If you've been at it for 9 years, that means I've been in Tampa for 9 years because that first.
Because I moved you. Yeah, because I moved you. Yeah.
Toya.
I am Toya Crawford. I am an event marketing and PR consultant here in Tampa. Mainly specialize in hospitality, nonprofit, and sports and entertainment. I actually got my start as a student at USF. I was a program director for comedy and late night. And that I was actually supposed to be a physical therapist. And as I went to get my master's, I learned that I wasn't as in love with sports medicine anymore. Mm-hmm. So I actually did an internship with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and my mentor and friend Jess was like, this is what you're gonna do. And so we've been doing that ever since. And that has led to me working in NBA and other events. And then when I moved back here from Tennessee, I was either overqualified or underqualified for a job. And so one of my friends, Allison, hey girl, she said that, you know, I'll have a job for you. So I kind of just started freelancing from there. And I've been doing this now for 5 years. I guess the fun fact is I still do have a double master's in sports medicine and management. So there's that.
Nice.
Awesome. And our newlyweds, Ashley and Joe.
Guys, we got so lucky. We were March 1st. We had no idea. I'm really excited to hear about all of the overlapping backgrounds that we have. I also was supposed to be something else. I was going to be a marine biologist. I was going to be the first person to photograph the giant squid. And then that happened. And then I hated chemistry and math. So I quickly pivoted to art. And after graduation in 2008, I thought I could be done with bartending, but it was not the case. So I kept bartending and I kept doing photography odd jobs until a friend that I bartended with was getting married and invited me to shoot it. And I fell in love. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I really loved editorial photography, but the thought of moving to LA or New York didn't interest me. I had no idea if there even was an industry in Tampa, let alone how to break into it. So the ability to literally pick up my camera and be a part of a very intimate day checked a lot of boxes for me. I really work well under pressure. I love the responsibility of the wedding day, but also the variety and all that kind of stuff. So that first wedding really helped me to see it as an opportunity. So I just kept going with friends and family, and I started cold emailing people, and now I get those emails. And actually worked for Celebrations of Tampa Bay for a few months, tied the knot weddings for a few months, and then I went full time. So it's been about 8 years.
And so I kind of started off as Ashley's assistant, as her voice-activated light stand. Go to a couple weddings that way, and it was enjoyable being a part of the process. And there was a destination wedding that I went to help out with, and the bride and groom were just gonna set up a GoPro to it was just like an elopement. They were gonna set up a GoPro to capture it, and Ashley's like, Joe can do better than that. And in fact, I had kind of all growing up, filmmaking was just kind of one of my hobbies, and my friends and I would always get together to make fake movie trailers and just to have some fun. And so I would just video edit in my spare time, just for the fun of it. And so doing that, put that together, a really short, like just kind of captured the event, and the bride and groom really liked it. And I'm like, oh, well, I can keep doing this. So I now work full time at Presh Marketing Solutions. They're an IT marketing company. And I take commissions for Ashley Hammond Photography. So usually for the larger events or destinations, I'll do the video.
Yeah, destinations, and then we opened up just 4 spots for the year for here. So we've got 3 out of the 4 this year, and it's been good. It's been a really fun way to continue working together.
That's awesome. Thank you, guys. So I always like to ask why you got into events, because I think that's always a commonality across the board with all event professionals. So this is an open question. The dreaded question: how has the coronavirus pandemic affected your work?
It has pretty much put everything to a stop for me, and I guess like everyone else in the industry, everything has come to a halt. Like I actually work with Brooke as well, and our biggest event of the year was coming up, or one of the biggest events, Burns Wine Fest. So we went from having between 13 to 15 events planned, and it automatically just came to a halt. And so you have to figure out, you know, what that looks like. And for me, being a freelancer, that's a big chunk of change that is now gone. And also, you know, I was doing WrestleMania as well, and that's now a contract that's not going to be completed. So between a couple of those events that I had lined up and a couple of the fundraisers, I was taken care of for the summer or through the summer, but now you're struggling now to figure out how do you pivot and find your next check once you're safe.
Well, I know for me, same thing. You know, all of my contracts have either canceled or postponed. You know, so, and you're right. You do have to find ways to supplement your income because we all have to eat. So, you know, the more diverse, you know, you are with your craft, the better opportunity you have to survive, you know, situations like this. So it's the same thing with myself. I've been doing more real estate photography and doing more portraits. But as far as weddings, the wedding industry itself, yeah, it's become almost completely dried up for me.
For me, I still have a lot of wedding films I need to edit, so I've been able to edit that, but it's kind of unusual because it's like, you know, people, not that any unemployment is good, but they're like also not having to work, and I'm like, oh, I'm having to work and I'm not getting paid. So I feel like a lot of us have that pain as well. But so I've been editing a lot of wedding films and trying to take calls, but a lot of things have been kind of slowing down as well. And that the way I've pivoted is kind of reaching out to venues and offering venue tours. So I've been able to do a few of those and trying to expand that, and because that's something that can also help now, obviously, while people can't physically tour. They have a video and it feels like they're there almost. And then also it's an evergreen content that they could use unless they like refurbish their building. It should pretty much be evergreen. So that's how I've pivoted a little bit, at least.
Awesome.
Well, I would say for me, I would say for me it's the same. My weddings, some of them, because I have a lot of destination weddings, and so a lot of my guests are flying in. So some of them have been flat out canceled, and we have postponed a bunch of them for next year. So, I mean, I've been staying grounded because I do a lot of coaching as well, because it's not wedding related. It's not something I publicized before, but that's what I've been doing. It's like empowering women to rise, you know? So I'm like, okay, well, let me go and let me fix my back end. And then I was like, okay, now what? So I guess let's work on this now. So I guess that's what I've been doing. But this week I've gotten 3 inquiries. So I guess things are going back to normal a little bit. So we'll see. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I guess for me, there has been, you know, a phone call or two here or there saying that there's going to be an event, you know, the next week, and then it, you know, obviously is canceled. That's happened a couple times, and that can be a little, you know, it can bring you down a little bit, but I try and, try and see the light of most situations, even though it's tough. But I've been a stay-at-home dad for this whole time, and it's been pretty awesome. I can't complain from that aspect. There's going to be times in your life where you're challenged, and the money might not be there, or there's issues in your relationship, or it's all on how you deal with the issues that are going on, and what good can come from this. So I've tried to think about new business ideas moving forward once coronavirus is passed, or once we're able to resume our normal, or what our new normal is. But you always have to be moving forward. There's try and better yourself, learn a language. I've been trying to learn more Spanish, French, you never know. I might want to travel, do so, you just better yourself instead of focusing on what's, so, crappy right now. That's just me. That's just how I live my life,
We appreciate that about you.
Yes. So we, in the beginning, it was, I guess like everybody, it was email after email from brides. They were worried, excuse me, they were concerned. So we've had about 23 postponed and rescheduled weddings so far.
So of course, Empower Events was started in response to COVID. So I think that it's important that as we discuss our businesses, that's in the back of our minds. This is all compounded by the coronavirus. So as we dive into the subject that's brought us all here, which is inequality or equality, when I was trying to think through how do you even start, I looked to my faith, but this is also a principle in most faiths, philosophies, psychological theories, that when you want change, you look inward first, and then you look to your home, your family, then you look to your community, and on and on and on and on. That's how you change the world. And so I want to first reflect inward and share a few things. Over the last week, I've talked to a lot of peers, each of the panelists, my family, activists, community organizers, because this is not something I wanted to mess up in any way. But I also just wanted to hear perspective, and I wanted to figure out all my biases, and this was a learning lesson. So first I want to share just a couple of things that were told to me by people confronting their racial bias. So these are white people grappling with everything. I thought I was listening. I thought I had an open mind, but as I listened to people, I realized I could hear what they were saying, but I'd never let it change my actions. I have to admit, I knew that I change my behavior if I'm speaking or interacting with someone Black. It never seemed to apply to me because I've always had Black friends. I'm never sure what to say to address it, so I haven't. When something bad happens, I first look to see the race of the criminal. It didn't matter to me if people of color were represented because I felt represented. I don't want to feel uncomfortable being who I am. It's sad when anyone dies. I don't necessarily see how it affects the event world. And then on the flip side, a few things that I've heard from Black peers that are not on this panel. I have always felt below white people. I have believed I am less than. How sick is it that when one of us is murdered, we have a protocol? We hear the news and we get information, but for what? Freedom is a mystery to me. We talked about it in school. I see it referred to all the time, but I've never felt free to walk out of my own door without feeling the weight of my Blackness. Everyone's all about sharing these videos about the conversations parents have to have with their Black children about how to protect themselves in today's society. Think about the parents who had to learn this lesson by losing their children to teach us. Society loves everything about us but us. They want our lips, our curves, our vernacular, to pick and choose elements of our culture, but they don't love us. I hear white friends in the event industry talk about why they have or haven't been booked, but they never have to say, what if it's because I'm Black? Imagine looking through countless publications, Instagram feeds, Pinterest boards, photo galleries, and never seeing anyone like you represented. It is offensive to me to now be offered a seat at the table. I should be at the head of the table. I've earned it on my own. If you're comfortable, anybody on the panel, if you would please share maybe some personal instances of a time you've experienced racism or prejudice.
You know, being in this industry for as long as I have, I'm pretty sure everyone on this panel at some point in time could give you a story about their experience. I mean, so it's not, it's not a matter of just the experience, but I've had plenty of experience in this industry, not just with clients, but with industry people. I live in a pretty nice house that, when people come to my home, they don't expect me to answer the door. I've had clients look right past me into my house and ask, was I home? And I have to say, no, it's me. Come on in, have a seat. It's okay. But what happens in that situation is you find yourself already behind the 8 ball to get even within that client. Because we all know people spend money with people they're comfortable with. So when someone comes into your home or into your studio, my studio is in my home, and I've done that on purpose. I did that because I need for my clients to understand, to have a sense of comfort when they meet me, to have a sense of, a connection when we have our conversations as far as, meeting as a client. And that's when they have that edge, when they initially come in, that's an edge that I have to work through just to start off even. And then once we get to that point, because if I have an hour meeting, to be honest, I spend 45 minutes of that hour just making sure that they understand or they're comfortable with the amount of money that they're about to spend with me. And then 15 minutes maybe talking about products and services and things of that nature, because I understand that initial moment out the door, when I opened my door and they got out of their car, I can see the initial uncomfortableness that I know that I have to be able to work through. And here's the thing, like I said, I've been doing this a long time and I've accepted that. I understand what that is. I know that if I'm going to be in this industry, I'm going to have these type of situations. This is something that, like Nick was saying before, man, you have to find a way to push through these things. You have to say to yourself, okay, especially as a Black male in the industry that's dominated by white females, I have to understand and know that this is just the terrain that I have to deal with. There's no point in me being upset about it. There's no point in me arguing, fight about it. If this is an industry that I'm going to have to be in, those are the moments that I'm going to have to say to myself, how do I get through these moments and how do I make this a productive situation for me and my family so we can eat? So it's not a matter of figuring out how many of us, I think, have had this experience. All of us have had this experience many times, and I'm pretty sure everyone can go by and say the same thing, but it becomes part of the course. It becomes part of your existence.
Something that I had
personally, go ahead, buddy.
Something I experienced like from a young age that it was just kind of interesting when I was reflecting back, and I was never really militant about getting offended by things, but my family I grew up in New York. My parents were both raised in New York City. We moved kind of to the suburbs right around the time I was starting elementary school, and we moved to a small town about an hour and 15 minutes outside New York City. And there were 2 Black families in the town. We happened to live next door to each other. It was just kind of interesting that way. But race was just never an issue. Something else that kind of comes with being in a small town was that organized sports kind of wasn't a thing. So like in the late 90s, early 2000s, extreme sports were really popular. So the cool kids were not the basketball and the baseball players. The cool kids were the skateboarders and especially the snowboarders. So like that was what I grew up doing. My family moved to Florida in 2001, and I immediately saw that I was like an outsider because I didn't play football or basketball. And so this was just something that I had to accept. I was a musician, I still play music now. And so the band was kind of what my identity was. But just being with I'm tall, I'm 6'5", and reasonably in good shape, but people would just ask me all the time, like, you must be a basketball player. And like, I've never had a black person ask me if I was a basketball, never, not once, ever. But I would tell friends this just kind of in passing. I kind of would coat a lot of what could be offensive in humor, just because, it's something interesting to talk about. And yeah, I guess I do. And so I tell friends, yeah, man, people ask me this every day, and they wouldn't believe me. And so we're out at a Wendy's, and someone's standing behind me, and an old man like, hey there, you must play basketball, don't you? And
or you really should.
You really
are wasting.
I've tried so many different ways to respond to that, to say like, oh well, no, but I do this. Like I'll tell you a little about myself, but they don't actually want to know anything about myself. It's just something to talk about at the dinner table that night. Like, hey, I met this guy and he's real tall. Turns out he plays basketball, and that's it. And so I just like it was a strange thing that got kind of coded in humor, and I started just kind of taking it as a compliment. But there's some weird compliments that you can be given in middle school and high school, and even far after that. People thought it was a compliment to say, Joe, you're the whitest black guy I know. And it was just one of those, it always baffled me, like growing up. And again, it wasn't until I was in my 20s that I bothered to like call people out on it, like to where like I was a manager at a cell phone store, and one of my trainees like said it thinking that it was going to be endearing. And I was like, so what is it about me that's white? And it's like it had never even crossed his mind to actually like break it down. And he's like, oh well, you're really nice, and you're friendly to people. And I'm like, so do white people have a monopoly on niceness and friendliness?
Or they say you're really articulate.
Yeah,
that's the word, really, and that's speaking white. If you're really articulate and you know how to navigate the English language, that's what I found really offensive.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing for me is, like you were saying before, you never were really militant. Yeah, no, see, not me. I'm not that dude. You know what I mean? I'm really not that guy now at 50 years old, where I realize that my tolerance is minimal, especially with what's going on now. And I understand what you're saying, man, because I've had plenty of people, especially in the wedding industry. And it's funny, man, because I've been standing up there at the altar waiting for the bride to come down, and I'll look out at the sea of people, and I'll be the only black person in the entire church. Yeah. And they're all looking at me, and you can see, like I had one guy asking me before, man, said, hey man, you can actually make a living doing this? And I go, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, how long you been doing this? Is this your own business? You work for someone else? No, you're not. And then he goes, well, how much do you mind if I ask, how much did you make on this wedding? I said, well, first, I do mind. And I said, secondly, I'm probably one of the more expensive people in this room. And once he realized that, okay, he was being offensive, of course he tries to dial it back. But like you were saying before, you get to a point, because you get to a point where you're no longer interested in trying to find the humor in it. You're no longer interested in saying, okay, hey man, let's find a peaceful way to do this. And like I said, I'm 50 years old, man. My tolerance right now is 0. When I was younger, I didn't have the patience to know how to manage it. But now at this point, I know how to manage those situations and understand what's happening in front of me and move through it. But a lot of who you are, like I was born and raised in Washington, D.C. And when I say in D.C., I mean in the city. So if I didn't turn my television on or go to work, I can go a whole week without seeing a white person. So to go from D.C. to Colorado, from Colorado to Tampa is a huge culture shock. So I had to learn how to manage it. And like you said before, if I'm going to find a humor in this, or how am I going to manage this situation, is going to be conducive for me to come out of this in a positive light. Because what I can't do is act a fool. That's what I can't do, because that is not in my best interest at all. I'm sorry, Nick, I cut you off, man. I know you were getting ready to say
Oh,
something.
no, you're all good, man. No, just so interesting hearing your stories because, you know, mine's not necessarily different, but, you know, being a biracial male or female, you know, it's difficult to find, you know, which side, because there's obviously one side that you have to be on. I'm sorry.
True. No, it's okay. It's all good.
But growing up in Birmingham, you know, I mean, you kind of learn not to listen necessarily to what they're saying, but I learned from an early age to not take what's said to me, you know, at face value. So, you know, I've been called everything you could think of, you know, trying to fit in on this side or that side, but it never, like, I was never pushed to the point to be emotional about it. I always was just like, you know what, you know, I'm going to be a badass at sports. So I played all this, played football, baseball, basketball, wrestling, and not just because to be with other people, you know, not to just fit in, just because I love doing it. And that's, you know, I was praised for it, and it made me feel good. And I took sports to, you know, I took it a very long way. I played almost all of them until high school, and I loved baseball. I was a catcher for almost like 14 years. And so my senior year, I ended up getting kicked off the team because I ended up going like every year, everyone, like all the white kids could go on spring break, but I couldn't afford to go. So I ended up being able to and go my senior year. I ended up getting kicked off the team in the middle of the concourse. You know, there was no finesse about it whatsoever. And, you know, that always bothered me. It made me feel angry, and I'm not an angry person. You know, I've seen really shitty things. You know, I grew up on this side of town with my mother, mostly, I mean, almost all white community, 2 biracial families, and then maybe 2 or 3 black people. So, and then on my dad's side, luckily I got to go to the actual city of Birmingham, because it's just full of, you know, it's full of life and full of love and just music. And it was just real life. It wasn't over the mountain, you know, it wasn't what you wanted to see all the time, and it was dangerous. And you might very well get a gun put to your head going down the street to the store. But it was more real to me, and I wish more so now that I had that ability to live on that side of town more and be able to, you know, find that part of me to not necessarily accept my blackness, but to know that I'm much more well off being who I am and not being just like you, because I'm not going to be. And I never got physical, I never got violent, and I still haven't to this day. I think my skin is extremely tough because of it. I don't think that it is necessarily a great thing. I could have easily gained that confidence another way. So it's frustrating. It's scary because you don't know, you know, it's scary more so just for, you know, the kids out there, and you know, having children, it just makes you not feel safe. And honestly, I mean, I don't think most people feel safe right now. So it's, I don't think that here in Tampa, I've become a person to be able to take it like Philip has and move through it, but that's not a healthy way to deal with things. I shouldn't have to and then just deal with it. I should be able to talk about it, and then you should listen.
Right.
And I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're good.
And you know, and I have a question, I guess. You know, like you were saying, you know, you wonder what it would be like if you knew more of that side of who you are. How do you think that would have made you different?
Well, I mean, I probably would have gotten to music a little bit sooner. I started playing the drums like 4 or 5 years ago. I'd probably be in a jazz band by now, but on a beat, I probably would have, you know, I am guilty of it as well. I don't I feel like I'm stuck in a bubble sometimes because I focus on work and then my family. And most of my friends are in the industry, and most of my friends in the industry are white. So I have friends back home that are Black. That's great. That's fantastic. But it's more like I feel like I'm not completely getting everything that I can, you know, the people in the city and around me. And I've tried to introduce Black people as a freelancer and then work them into it. And then I'm basically the person to talk to the Black person, or I don't like how he's doing that. Can you talk to him? Or anybody of any, you know, color. You know, that's usually I'm the guy. Can you go fix that?
You're the most non-threatening guy that can get the problem fixed.
Right. And I don't mind talking to people. That's part of my job, but don't approach it that way. And I don't know what you're doing.
Well, and that's the big thing too in this industry is that, and here's the thing, like I said, I've been doing this a long time. I mean, when I first started here in Tampa, it was 2005. And, you know, this industry has morphed into what it is today. It used to be nothing like it is. I mean, I could pay for my advertising and never go to a networking function, never talk to anyone. I know my first year here, I did 53 weddings alone by myself without talking to not one coordinator, doing one networking event, no nothing. So everything that I was doing was purely based off of my work. So the industry now has morphed into something completely different, to whereas the value of who you are and what you do is not based off your work anymore. It's completely based off of how well you network, how well you function within social media, how well you're accepted, so on and so on. So it becomes difficult. But again, you know, and I have to say this again, when you're in this industry, you have to find a way to function in it. And I always started mine off with, my work has to be good. Period. That will never be the reason that you don't hire me.
Right.
Never. You know, that would never be the reason that you have you'll never be able to say, Phil, you're cool and all, but your work is, that'll never happen. So now that I've taken that up,
that's also the stereotype we're having to, we've fed in, well, that's how we have to be. Otherwise you're lazy or you're late.
Right. Yeah, but the question really becomes, you know, what is the purpose of us all having these conversations? You know, I was thinking about this earlier today because this whole thing has been on my mind for the past 2 days. What do we want to gain from talking about where the industry is and what it is, you know, and what needs to change? Because I saw something, you know, I've been taking notes, man, when everybody's talking, because I'm old and I forget. What are we trying to gain? What are we doing as far as how do we make these changes that everybody wants to make? Because like we said before, we can have 1,000 different stories about how, you know, there's been unfair treatment about this, that, and the other. And how do we do that? How do we hold people accountable for what they do? How do we hold people in the industry saying, listen, man, you know, regardless of my skin color, if I'm the best man for the job, you know, you should be hiring me, you know? And Nora and I had this conversation the other day. How do we get the people involved that are holding the keys? Because every industry has people holding the keys. The people holding the keys in this industry, how do we get them to understand, listen, I'm no different than anybody else you choose. I'm no different than anybody else you choose, and how you go about making that change. Because people can say whatever they want. Phil, we love your work. Because those who know me, those who've been to social media networkings with me, you always hear the same things. Phil, we love your work, man, blah, blah, blah. But I never get a call from any of those people, ever. Phil, we think you're a great guy, man. We think you'd be, you know, real nice with our clients, this, that, and the other. Phone call never rings. So like they were saying, someone was saying before about change, it's like change only happens when you decide to make that change. It only happens from the people holding the keys that says, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. You know, if you say that I'm the best person for the job, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be referring me. If you say that I'm a nice person or I'm the person that you think is going to be conducive to your clients, then there's no reason I should be sitting here having this conversation with you about referrals.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Being that you've been in the industry for this long, who have you recognized are those key holders?
Yeah.
Have you been able to put a finger on?
You want names?
Keys. Yeah, who's the key holders? Who's wielding the keys?
Well, most of the time it's either going to be event planners.
Not names. Just yeah.
Yeah, okay. I ain't gonna throw away under the bus. But, it's either going to be event planners and it's going to be hotels and venue spots. Those are going to be the people because that's where the brides are normally going to go to get their search started. Those are going to be the people that everybody wants to go to get these brides, unless you're getting them from advertising. Now, if you get them from advertising, that's a different thing because you're paying your money. But if you're talking about networking, you're talking about social media, you're talking about all of those things, those are the people who are going to be holding the keys to more than likely getting your referrals. Now, if that person holding the key is not willing to lose a client because that client is biased for whatever reason, then there's the problem.
Yeah.
If my client is, if I'm an event corner or a hotel event place, and I know I have a client that's biased towards people of color, and I purposely don't send that person in that direction, then you're part of the problem because it's like, listen, if you're not willing to lose that client because of who they are and what they do, then you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. I've had event coordinators call me and say, listen, man, I got a great client. I think you'll do well with them because they're Black. And I'm like, are you kidding me, man?
Oh.
But it goes both ways. It's like, well, I know my client's not really fond of people of color or, whatever. I'm not going to send them that way instead of saying, listen, that is not what we do. This guy was one of the best photographers I use. He just happens to be Black. Now, if that's something that you can't function with, then that's more than likely not something that you and I are going to probably be able to do business on. But therein lies the problem because now what happens is your business comes in front of humanity. Mm-hmm. How you make your money now comes in front of humanity. It now puts, you put more importance on that than you do on the fact that this person is supposedly, one, your friend, and two, one of your better vendors. So if you're not willing to do that, then this whole conversation is pointless. If all of us aren't willing to do that, this whole conversation is completely pointless.
Well, Phil, that's exactly it though. So you made the tie to the business coming in front of their humanity, but that's what's happening all across the country.
Yes.
It's not only
exactly
their physical money, it's their social capital also that gets put in front of their humanity. I've had the experience. I know we can just continue going through experiences, but the reason that I want to keep talking about experiences is because of what Noor said at the beginning about how it starts with introspection. And what I've seen as I've gotten older is that there are people that truly just have no idea how ignorant they are. I like giving people like a pass, but they just don't know until they're stopped to just think, wait a second, why was that the first thing that came to my mind? Why is it that I've worked in sales for a long time, and I've worked in a store in the retail environment. I've worked in-person sales. When I've done in-person sales after making an appointment over the phone, I've literally had the words said to me when they opened the door, like, wow, you're taller than I was expecting. And people just need those moments of being uncomfortable. They need to hear stories of the stories of the stories so that they can just stop and think.
Yeah.
It happens at all levels.
We've had friends call to say, like, have you've experienced racism? And hear the gears turning in their minds and their hearts, and they're awestruck. So I think we need to be talking about that. And I think something that you brought up too is you as in Black people have been making us as in white people comfortable when we make these asinine comments, and you absorb it and you dance around it and you make it all happy and funny and whatever. The problem of racism, now we have put that on you too. We created it and now you get to handle it. And when I realized that and put it into that context, it was a big wow. Like this is the problem. We're making you handle it also is ridiculous.
And we have to handle it in a way that doesn't make them uncomfortable.
And that's a huge problem. Like, so these little microaggressions, these little things, whatever, like it has to start with being able to recognize them and then being able to speak up, whether it's a shaky voice or not, and practice how to get our humanity across, because I think we're scared and we don't know the right words. And even when we find a meme that we resonate with, it's very hard to keep that distilled perfect clarity of what we're trying to say across to someone when they're confronting you about it, when they're saying, I don't see color. It's very hard to be like, well, I know what to say to this. Like, you have to practice. We have to be practicing these conversations until we get it.
Well, you know, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Not seeing
part
color.
of it, oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Toya.
I think part of it is we have to, you said, what can we do to fix this? Or what can they do, or white people in general, what can they do to fix this? And I think honestly, it is check your bias. Check your bias with yourself, check your people's bias.
Check your people.
Check your people.
Because I literally 6 months ago, we did a major event, and I'm in there with the police, I'm in there with the fire department, I'm in there with all these heads of state, and I'm in there with 2 of my white counterparts. And I'm checking in, they're giving me my materials. These people are seeing me get my information to go into this meeting. I go in, I sit, we find our seats, we sit down. We're like, oh, let's go get some coffee, let's go get whatever. I get up to go get coffee, they go get up to meet someone else. I'm approached at the coffee stand, and I'm asked, hey, this is a private meeting. Who are you and who are you with?
Wow.
So you've seen me check in, you've seen me get my materials, but now you want to know who I am and who I'm checked with, or who I'm on behalf of. And so when I go back to my seat and I ask my friends, and I say, were you guys approached about who you're here with or who you are? They're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's just a cute blazer I got on. I don't know. But, you know, so I've been on this earth now 39 years, and every single 2020 now, we're still having to tell you to listen, to have you to say, don't judge me by the color of my skin. And I tell my friends, I'm like, you can love me. I work in a predominantly white space. Majority of my events, I may be one of the few Black people in the room.
Sure.
But I tell people, I'm like, you can love me, but not everyone can love me. When to them, I'm just another Black woman. Mm-hmm. First, I'm a woman. Second, I'm a Black woman. Mm-hmm. So then there's also those biases. So until they can check their biases, and if they see it, they check their friends or they check their people. And that's the big thing, because if you let them slide, we're gonna be in the same place in 6 months.
Well, you know, and that just, I'm sorry, Georgia, you want to go ahead?
I was just gonna say, Pamela's asking, you know, when we speak up, we're considered angry and now we lose business. We have to be willing to be perceived as angry. We have to be willing to lose business. That whole part of worrying about what other people are gonna think is completely unproductive. And it is, at this point, completely criminal and detrimental to
but you know, that goes back to what we was just saying a minute ago. I think that the big thing is we all know people that are inappropriate. Mm-hmm. Every one of us, even our friends, parents, pastors, friends, everybody, we all have them. But what we don't do is, like we was just saying before, check your people. When you see or you know of someone, I don't care who it is, check your people. People ask all the time, what can I do to help? Check your people. That's what you can do to help. When you got a friend that you know is out of pocket, check them. It doesn't make a difference where we are, like you said before. If they're going to be uncomfortable, they're going to be uncomfortable. But listen, that's just not how we roll.
It's never going to hit. It's never going to hit them until somebody that looks exactly like you tells you that you're completely wrong.
Yeah.
You're not. I can say it until I'm blue in the face, but you're not gonna. I mean, you can be colorblind as much as you want, but being colorblind means that you're not accepting that I am a different color than you. That's true, and I have all these. You know, I have all these traditions. I have I typically like. Learn more about me instead of looking past, you know, what I actually am.
Mm-hmm. And saying you're colorblind is just, for me, it's a cop out.
Yeah,
it's not
more
just
of a
multicultural
outlook instead of colorblind. That's
it's
opposite way to do it.
I can see that, but and the reason I say it's a cop out is because that'd be like saying that I don't see you as a woman. I don't see you as a person. Who I am, what you see standing in front of you, the color of my skin is a large part of who I am. So when you say I'm colorblind or I'm multicultural or whatever, you're ignoring a huge part of who I am. You're ignoring a huge part of my culture. You're ignoring a, yeah, you're making a conscious decision to say that I'm going to overlook a large part of who you are and what got you to where you are. Now, don't judge. I'm saying we're talking about judgment on it. That's a whole different thing. I'm not asking you to judge me on it. I'm just don't act like it doesn't exist.
Right.
I really hope people could actually say I see color, because in the event industry, if I'm a designer and I tell you I want blue, I want you to be able to tell me there's blue. So you can't tell me when I walk into a room, you don't see that I'm black. Hello, if I'm walking down the street and I see a hot blondie, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, he's blonde. So yes, I see color. So enough of the I don't see color. So, and I think earlier when you were saying, Joe, that I had a best friend in high school, and we were at this party, and she was saying, oh my gosh, I went to work and these people, this girl was so loud. I'm like, you realize these people you're talking about are black. Do you realize I am black, right? And she's like, yeah. And she made the comment, oh no, Georgia, no, you're a different kind of black. You're the whitest black person I know. And I'm that person. I stand up for myself because, I mean, I was born in Haiti. So in Haiti, being born there and raised there, I didn't really see the whole racism thing there. So when I moved here, it was a whole different experience for me because it was shocking. So then I'm like, oh my gosh, now I'm like an African woman, American woman living in this country. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to learn about African American history. I had to learn about this history. So I'm like, but I'm pretty sure none of you know anything about Haitian history. But I have to know the story about every other country, right? But yet I walk into a room and that's the first thing you see about me. Oh my gosh. It's like, you don't look Haitian, you don't sound black. And I know for sure in the Tampa market, I have called a venue and I said, oh, I'm gonna come and I'm gonna tour. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see you. And I walk in and I'm like, oh, you're Georgette? Yeah, were you expecting somebody else? And I mean, and that's the other thing, because if you're going to meet with somebody, first of all, check my website. At least I have my picture on there. Like, at least when I walk in, you're not like, oh yeah, she's black, whoa. So it's like, things like that are being said, and it's not okay. And when you approach me, you're like, yo, what's up? No, like, what? I don't know. Don't yo, what's up, me? Like, that's not the way. Don't approach me like this. It's because what? I'm black, so now I'm like, let's yo. So we have to, in a room, because that happens, and I know the bias comes on both sides. I'm not even gonna tell you here that, oh my gosh, it's only the white side. I mean, but when it happens in my family, I check them. No,
check your
that's
people.
Not acceptable. And when I work with my clients as well, I let them know I am a multicultural planner. So you're going to have different kind of vendors. It doesn't matter if you're a white couple, if you're an Indian couple, I don't care. I'm going to use different type of vendors. And I want you to be okay with it, because it's something I intentionally do. Because when I moved here, I intentionally, at USF, I joined the international group, club, whatever, because I wanted to know more about other culture. So, because at the end of the day, that's the world we live in. We have different cultures everywhere. So like, we have to learn to understand, we have to respect each other. I don't have to play dumb in my class, because when I mean, so many times I grew up in middle school, I guess primary school, you would call elementary or middle. I was already doing chemistry. I was already doing physics. So when I came here and trying to, as a woman and as a Black woman, you see people look at you, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. Excuse me? I know exactly what I'm talking about. I know my chemistry. I know what I'm doing. So it's not valued because I am a Black woman. And especially for med school, oh my goodness, don't even go there. It's like, I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. And I remember people saying, are you sure you want to be a neurosurgeon? Wow, why don't you be a pediatrician? Excuse me? No, I want to be a neurosurgeon. So, oh, well, do you know the boards of well, it is a fact though, like there's like white males that are in neurosurgery. That's the majority of them, but people look at you and automatically think, oh, she's not smart enough, or this and this. Enough. I don't have a problem calling you out, but the problem that I have is when you have these conversations with your peer, and it's like, oh my gosh, I don't want to work with Indian people. That's offensive to my client. And the thing about it, don't expect me to come and bring you my client's dollar, because if you can't stand up for the racial bias, then I shouldn't have to bring that money to you at all.
Right.
So I don't know. I guess that's what we have to do in a community. We have to call each other out. We have to.
Check your people.
And like Philip said, it's the key holders. I worked for a key holder for a long time, and I was disrespected probably weekly by the comments that she would make. And a lot of the issue there was because there was no HR put in place. I mean, first of all, how do you have a company without an HR? And I think that would help many circumstances. I mean, obviously, for Anna's company, it's there's only a handful of people in there. It depends on how large your company is. But if I have somebody that I can actually go to, and the HR person's not laughing with the rest of the people, while I'm the only Black person in the meeting room, and I tend to make a sarcastic remark that basically says "F you," and I've gotten through it, and then I laugh about it, and then later on I have that dialogue in my head about what I should have said or what I really wanted to say, but I didn't want to stoop down to their point, to their level. It's shareholders like that, like he said, have to lose money. The only way for this to happen is for those clients to be lost, and for you to get new clients that you'd be proud to stand with. That's the way. Money's gonna.
But we as a community, we also have to be accountable for our actions as well. We also have to be, when I first started going to networking functions, people used to say to me all the time, Phil, why do you wear a suit? You don't have to wear a suit, man. Wear your khakis, you'll be fine. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't have to wear a suit. I have to wear a suit. So I have to be accountable for my actions. I have to be accountable about how I present myself, how I present my business, understanding, where I stand understanding where behind the 8 ball I am. So we as a community, we as people of color, and it's not just Black people, we as people of color have to be accountable for the things we do as well. We can't sit here and say, you need to change and you do this, you do that. We have to be accountable. We got to make sure our website is nice. We got to make sure all our stuff is on point. So when we go and put ourselves in environments and situations where we feel like we can succeed, we have all our stuff together. You can't be riding dirty. You can't be riding around with no car insurance. Can't be riding around with no license. Your stuff has to be on point. So once all that's taken care of and you've done what's required of you and being accountable, then you must check your people just like they got to check theirs. Okay, I've done my part. I've brought to the table everything I was supposed to bring to the table and some. So now I'm requiring that you do the same. But you can't come ask something from somebody and you haven't done your part as well.
Yeah, I think it's got to be all the things at once, with yourself, with your circle, with your industry, inward and outward. And then what we really need to be moving towards are the actionable things, the intention. Like we need to say, I purposely want to work with Black people. I want to book Nigerian weddings. I want to book Indian weddings, whatever it is. I found that I've been waiting for permission to ask for those things that I want, and what have I been waiting for? It's not been comfortable to pursue that, to say Black people, that I want them in my portfolio. And, it's sad that it's taken this long, but the moment's here. And so I think we need to harness this environment and to really go out there and say, look, you can't tell me that I'm exploiting you, or I can't risk thinking that other white people are going to think that I'm exploiting you. this has to happen. I need you. We need to work together. I want to work together. Let's do this. And to be actively making those opportunities is going to be what turns the tide, because it is a feedback loop. If my portfolio is all white, only white
You're gonna
people.
get all white people. Yeah, but you also have to be the best person for the job.
Yes, absolutely. But I think
You have
that's
to be the best person for the job.
not fair. Like, the people that are the best for the job are automatically disqualified because of their skin. So you have to be, how do you catch up like the 8 ball? Like, I think we have to purposefully have quotas, whatever it is. Like, we got to have these ideas to force it into happening so that it becomes the new normal.
Well, like I said, I agree that I think it has to be a two-part thing. Like I said, we got to come and be accountable, and the people that are the gatekeepers can't be afraid to lose business. They can't be afraid to say, "Listen, I get it, but Phil, his work is good." But a lot of times, you know, there's so many variables in that bubble that it's not just one thing. Because you could be the best person for the job, but your style of work doesn't fit that client.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Your style of work. So that's not a race thing. There's just two different styles. And now all of a sudden you got this person caught in the middle saying, okay, Phil, I want you to work with me, with these people. And I want to work more with you. But the style that your shooting style is not conducive to this particular client or the types of clients that I normally get. So then what that means is that person in the middle now has to say, all right, I have to also, just like they're coming to the table with theirs, I have to also look for a more diverse group of clients. So it has to be an all-encompassing thing. It can't be just one. It can't be one side doing, the other side not doing. We all as a whole have to come to the table. It's like I tell my daughter, she was dating. She's 25 now. When you come to the table, you got to have something to put on the table. You can't come to the table and go, hey, man, I expect for you to fulfill all. Just like you have requirements, you have to demand that they have requirements.
Yeah,
you can't be the one carrying all the weight.
I was gonna say, and I feel like for me, and I feel like I have to kind of overcompensate a lot and be like extra peppy. And I am a very peppy person, but like I feel like I have to be like always smiley. If I am thinking, I'm like, oh my God, they're gonna think I'm angry or I'm mad or something is wrong. But with Nora's like question about like experiences, I have a bunch of experiences daily life, but in the wedding industry specifically, kind of similar to Georgette and Toya's, I've had like going into meetings and I'm like, hey, I'm at the door, and they're like, oh, I don't see you, and I'm like, I'm at the door, there's no one else here. Like, what are you, and I don't know what they look like sometimes, like they should know what I look like. I'm talking client wise. I'm not, usually don't really know what they look like. This is back when I used to do physical client meetings, but so that always, I was like, well, that's cool. Guess that was really annoying. But yeah, and I've always, my husband's white, and like a lot of the times we'll be filming or whatever, and people go up automatically to him, a white male, and he's like, I don't know, go to her. And sometimes if I'm next to a white photographer, they'll go to her, and I'm like, what? He can't be.
What is going on?
I'm like, I'm the one with the, like, I got the film gear and she's got a still camera. Come on, people. That's happened multiple times. More often than not. I've been followed multiple times when I'm separated from a white photographer, if I have the rings or the dress, and I take note. And I'm like, you're not following them. Do you think I've been paid for this wedding, I'm gonna go run away with the dress or the rings? Like, I don't understand. That's happened on more than one occasion, unfortunately. And just a bunch of things like that has made me feel really uncomfortable. And I'm trying to, I know Phil's like, you have to kind of check your people, and I'm trying to, but also like, I'm tired to shoot this wedding. I can't be like, it's a difficult balance in that. And then I've been, what Phil has said too about like being in, looking in a church and seeing, I did a wedding in Georgia that was 300-person wedding, and there was like 2 Black people and like no Spanish people, and I was like at the front kind of like, it's like this. I was honestly driving there, I was kind of scared. I was like, this is gonna be a very white wedding. And like the couple was great, but I felt very like nervous and feel like I had to overly prove myself on that wedding in particular. But a lot of weddings where I just feel uncomfortable, and I shouldn't feel that way, but that's the way it is. And yeah.
I think that comes with time, though, because like I said, I've been doing this so long that now I can stand up there with and I shouldn't say this, but I will. I can stand up there with a certain sense of arrogance. I can stand in that room and see white people looking at me, and maybe arrogance is not the word. I'm gonna say comfort.
Confidence.
Yeah, confidence that, I deserve to be here.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're uncomfortable with me standing up here, then that's your issue, not mine.
Yeah, I started the one thing when I see people talking to Jacob, my husband's name's Jacob, I usually walk and I'm like, I'm who you want to talk to. I started doing that. So there was something like, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. You go to her. So it's a little bit, but yeah.
I think I find with us, because it's typically wedding day, it is Antonio and myself that show up to a wedding. Consultations when a bride meets with us, I always like to have Antonio around because he is my business partner. He's my other half when it comes to to everything with this business. But I want to go back to an experience because I found myself I'm in quite a bit of groups. So I had never really personally experienced stuff that I was reading today and yesterday from just from other, events professionals. Black event professionals primarily, because those are all the ones that stood out to me, because seeing what they have, just feeling less than, or feeling that they are not equal to their white counterpart, or to feel that they can't go to these wedding shows, or that I guess I just hadn't really felt that I had experienced it just from not going to those shows. So it was blowing my mind that anybody in this industry of love, and we try to all be upbeat and try to make just everything so great, but just seeing that my brothers and sisters out there are feeling so just so beat down, like not included, and I have to check myself, with I started off by saying, like, if I'm scrolling on Instagram or social media and I look at a picture, I'm looking at the picture, if I'm drawn to a picture, it's because, the design was well executed, or, it's a beautiful floral arrangement. And I never thought to think about what, who designed that, or what story do they have, that person who, what obstacles have they overcame to be where they are today. And so I felt I got a wake-up call when it's so much more than, if I say the only color I see is in this picture, because it's not. Like, there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes of what these, other African-American, just amazing floral designers, or, just event industry people in general have gone through. And I always try to go into an experience. This will always stand out to me. We were at a wedding, Antonio and myself, and we had a good rapport with the bride. We were there for probably 4 hours setup. Like, we had been there all day. But it's starting to come down to cleanup time, and we had finished, our crew had finished, and Antonio and I go to walk back over because the coordinator told us that the bride wanted us to stop by and see her. So we were walking over, and one of the bridesmaids, the maid of honor, again, this person had saw me go back and forth several times. And the minute that Antonio came over and was walking ahead of me, I'm watching her, and I see her approach Antonio and asked him, could she help him? Can I help you? And Antonio is one of the most intelligent people that I know. Black man, yes, but he's just an intelligent man, period. So I knew that he would be fine to handle any situation or any uncomfortness, but I think I find myself always trying to, his feelings are like, I think that his feelings almost matter more than mine. Like I never want him to feel offended, and I never want him to feel like if anybody ever disrespected him, like it would affect me. It would mortify me. So, I walked up and Antonio was telling him who he was. And the bride, I don't know if she didn't believe, what he was saying. So once I got there, the bride ended up coming over and she was like, what's going on? And the girl was like, well, I was just asking him, who he was or what he was doing here. He just kind of like walked, over, and the bride was like, this is our florist. I watched the bride and she set her maid of honor in place. Like she definitely,
She was mortified.
yeah, she was so embarrassed because again, we had this great rapport. We'd gone out to dinner with these clients on several occasions, had them over to our home. And we treat all of our brides like family and we welcome them into our home. And so the bride, like, and I was very proud of that bride for, checking her people.
Check her people.
Check your people.
Yeah,
Check your people. Check.
she did that, but
Don't play.
You
Check
should
your
send me
check your
that
people.
T-shirt, Phil. I mean,
yeah,
what are you
that's
doing?
it's a great shirt. That and so thinking about that, and then just putting it with all of like just reading all of these just tumultuous things that other African American designers and florists have been facing that I never thought to. That I've never really witnessed out of these shows, or like they're still in that. It blew my mind. So I want for myself, I want to make it a point to, educate myself and to open up and to change anything that I can change. And, it's.
So I think this is something I talk about a lot, but I do find a lot of flaws in our industry associations. And, I've said it multiple times throughout the course of this. If we were organized before we went into the coronavirus, we would know what to do a little bit. We wouldn't have to like build the ship first. We'd be on one. So in the same way, have you found any organizations that are supportive, that are, emphasizing diversity, representing you? Who should we be supporting? The onus is on us. Who should we be supporting? Who should we be pushing? You're welcome to name names or not, but just know that I have frustrations too. So,
well, what are your frustrations? What are some of your frustrations? Because you and Anna have been pretty quiet.
I'm just listening and taking it all in. So,
but you got to have an opinion.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I've been very aware of. I actually started my business up in Michigan. So I worked in a, Detroit area, Ann Arbor, and I had the opportunity of working with a lot of ethnicities, Blacks, Muslims, like everything. And so I learned a lot through that too. And I will say it was a very different experience from what I've experienced in Florida. They welcomed me with open arms into their communities and things like that too. And I had the opportunity to be hired by all different races, all different groups. And there, it was a little bit different because I had that side of it too, where inclusion was big because it was just kind of part of their culture, I think, up there in that area of Michigan too. But then when I moved my company back to Florida, it was definitely a different dynamic kind of coming back. And Florida's where I grew up too, but I don't think I ever really realized it until I moved away and then came back. But then I really started seeing it too, like obviously once social media and things like that became so much bigger. And I'm really aware of it now because I think I've really kind of dug in the past week, really just this past week and two, just because a lot of it's been brought to my attention even more so. But it's very apparent too, and listening to a lot of these other panels and a lot of these other conversations that we're all having too with each other, and listening. But I'm definitely part of the problem because I saw there was a kind of an issue, but I never said anything, and I think that's the thing too. It's like, it's realizing, check your people, but check yourself too. And we have responsibilities as business owners. And I was just like literally just going through my website today, and I'm just like, we've had Black clients, but not one single one's represented on this website. But the weddings were 10 years ago in some cases. So there's that point, but it's hard because it's not, I don't think it's ever was intentional on my end too, but I think now I'm being definitely much more aware of it too. And I'm ashamed of it. I'm ashamed of myself and, not really kind of, I think, reaching out and listening more and having these conversations beforehand. But I'm also, in a sense, grateful that this movement is happening because it's allowing us to have these conversations now. And I mean, Kamari, I will say one thing about Kamari. She is the most outgoing person. We've never met really. I mean, we've never really got a chance to kind of know each other in person, things like that too, but she is engaged so much on social media. And I think that's a part too, that's a great thing that we all need to take advantage of too, because we have such an easier situation now to reach out and talk to one another. But I also think too, like, I'm an introvert. I do what I do because I kind of like to be behind the scenes, and that's why I am what I am. But it's like, let's go and make this decision to, like, I think, reach out to each other now and really engage in these conversations too. And how can we help each other? And also we really need to push within our media, within bridal publications, our foundations, these organizations like Engage. I mean, that was a huge topic yesterday on the panel there. They haven't had a lot of Black speakers. They're very repetitive too in regards to the same speakers that they've had over and over again. But it's like, we need to have this inclusivity too, and just bring in these different, because people like different styles. And Phil, to your comment earlier too, it's like you find a match for your client and you do that. That's the big thing, is just what fits their style, what fits their aesthetic, what fits their, but I think too, we've kind of been nervous about like pushing people away, but I think going back, and it's really making me check the humanity button, which I think we kind of are lacking right now in our industry and in the world in general. And I don't know, it's like a huge slice of humble pie for me, because I'm realizing just the mistakes and things like that too, that I think we just all need to be very well aware of. And I apologize if I've ever offended anybody. It's never been intentional. It's out of being an idiot and just being like naive about things, I think, sometimes too. So
I have to say though, like, because I get to see both sides a little bit, because I feel like sometimes I'm in between, because it's like sometimes I feel like I don't fit in this way. It's not, I think it has to be more, you have to be more intentional of who you're surrounded with, because I do understand when, let's say I want to run an idea by someone and I'm like, oh, I'm going to call my sister, I'm going to call my best friend, and if she looks like me, then that's what's going to happen. So making it intentional and say, you know what, I want to talk to this person, but I'm going to call somebody else. So it's just like that. So I don't want to say like it's an idiot kind of thing. I mean, no, but it's just what happens, right? It's who are you surrounded with? But now that because I know a lot of people say, I don't know, I didn't know, or it was, so now you know. Now you know, let's move forward. So it's not, let's just not be ashamed of what happened in the past. Okay, now we're here. What do we do next? So I know for sure, it's like when I started, I called so many people, and sometimes people don't even call back. It's all about, oh, well, I have this client. Oh, I have this client. Okay, I've been in this business for 7 years, and sometimes I've made it an intentionally. I'm like, okay, well, honestly, at some point, I'm like, I'm just gonna have people from other places, and I'm okay with that, because I wasn't. And I haven't been networking in the Tampa market for a while, because honestly, I'm like, I'm wasting my time, and my time is valuable. The energy that I give, I totally appreciate. So for me to feel like I'm going somewhere and it's like, you're just not being seen, it's why? I don't want to go. Like, so I haven't seen you in a while. I know. Yeah. Well, that's that. So now it's like, now let's just be intentional of what we do. But what I don't want to happen either is let's say now, oh my gosh, now I need to have a Black couple. If that's not your thing, please just don't. You know, it's like, I don't want it to be, I have to have a Black couple on my feed, and then, oh my gosh, and behind the scene, it's like, I really don't want that Black couple on my feed. Please just save us the time and just don't do it. So, so I don't want it to be a trend now. I need to have this Black. If you're going to do it because it's in your heart, not because you have to. So that's
I think that's what's been frustrating me, is that seeing it now, it sucks that it's had to come to this for us to see, you know, people who are on a platform who have a voice, you know, with all of these followers, or, you know, hey, let post, you know, a business of color. Post your favorite African-American owned business. And I think that it's great now, but it's like, let's continue this afterwards. It shouldn't have this shouldn't have had to have happened for us to want to have Black couples in our style shoot. This shouldn't have had to happen for us to want to refer, you know, a Black owned wedding coordinator, or it's, so I just, like you said, going back to what you said, Georgette, like a trend, like I hope that this continues past this, and it shouldn't take innocent, you know, men, innocent Black men, people's lives, you know, for us to, for us to get here.
I think to say, I think one of the things that we're all kind of saying but not saying is that across the board, when we're seeing something, we're not saying something. And it comes for a lot of reasons. And first and foremost, what we're talking about right now, the color of people's skin, but it also is coming back to like our morals. And Philip and I had a long talk about it. I don't want to go and pay a fee to attend a networking event that is not giving me content. It is not introducing me to new people. It is not conducive to conversation. We're there to drink. We're there to, I don't know, hang out with our friends. And then furthermore, it's not coming back to us as a community, right? So I keep using this analogy. We've heard from a restaurant we ate at 42 years ago, their stance on COVID and how they're wiping counters down, but they're not letting us know, as an industry, we're going to make these resources available to you. You've been investing in us for this long, and we built a community for this reason. So why are we not saying something when we see it, right? I don't want to be the angry ethnic girl. I don't want to be the person who's always standing and like beating people over the same message. But at the same time, if I'm the only voice, I'm the only voice out of thousands, right? So I think we need to find our people, and we need to stand together, because we should be represented in some way or another. And I'm saying we here, I mean event professionals. And then the other thing too is that, you know, speaking to not having a level platform or foundation for each other, do you find yourselves represented when you look at our boards, right? Like, when I moved to Tampa, there were a few excellent people, mostly women, I will say, doing all of the work. They were vetting the venues. They were trying to push for the best possible speaker content. They were making the biggest push for membership across the board. You know, I get the emails. Nobody's ever called me to say, why aren't you coming? So I've started creating my own opportunities. And that's not the point, right? We're trying to talk about why you don't have a seat at the table, why there hasn't been space made. So I think there's a lot there that I think we could carry over to a part two, but the number one thing I want to say is I hope that everybody will join me in, when you see something, say something. If you see something unethical happening, say it. Whether it's copyright infringement, whether it's copyright infringement, an Instagram caption. There's been a big discussion about website copy in the greater industry across the board. let's all, you know, I mean, we can say it very nicely, we can say it in a DM, we don't have to do it with our flags waving. And so I want to jump to a couple of questions because I know we've been here for a bit, and I am so grateful for all of your perspectives. But there is something that I want to bring up that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but it was a learning lesson, a learning conversation that I have that I'm going to continue with the person that submitted this. And this is what they said. I'm not trying to be critical, but I'm a little disappointed that no one on the panel actually has a diverse portfolio or more than 5% of their portfolio is Black. If I am frank, while these professionals may have endured racism in their personal and professional lives, this reality does fall flat when looking at their social media accounts. The lack of diversity and inclusion, especially from those who have been marginalized themselves, perpetuates the issue and allows implicit bias in this industry. And I want to say, you're welcome to agree and disagree with her point, but I do, you know, I want to have the argument on both sides. And I also want to ask, do you feel that there is a lack of Black business owners represented in our area?
You know, I don't, first I'm gonna go back to the point of portfolio. I agree 100%. You know, you can't sit here and talk about diversity if your portfolio, or you are making the same efforts to diversify your portfolio as well. Because what happens is, like you said, your argument falls short. So we, like I said before, again, we have to do the same. We have to come to the table and do exactly what it is we're asking other people to do. If I'm asking you to be more diverse, I got to be more diverse. I got to go out and do the same things. I have to find ways to diversify what it is I'm doing based off. And I saw someone else's post saying, I don't want to be hired just because of the color of my skin. I agree 100%. And we all have to do the same. We all have to be diverse. You can't sit here and point the finger at somebody else and say, I need you to do this, that, and the other. And your website is not as diverse, or doesn't have, you know, it's not equally balanced, I should say.
Be saying that. I mean, addressing our audience in our newsletter or our platforms, all of these things, saying like, look, I have introspected and I am lacking, and these are the ways that I'm going to fix that, you know, and addressing it, because we can say that we want to work with people all we want all day long, but unless our portfolio does show that, it's not true. So I think we need to take this opportunity as space to go out and make those things happen, but to be communicating it all the way through, because obviously we don't want people to think that it's like a trend or like anything like that. We need to loudly say, look, this is my opportunity to make it right. I'm going to admit all of the ways in which I'm now seeing that I was wrong, and I'm going to integrate that into my business and move forward with it. And I think we have to just be explicit and communicate, because all these assumptions and all of this not saying anything because we're worried about what people are going to assume, it's just so unproductive.
I will say that my pages are, because I am a freelancer, my pages are diverse. And even the companies that I work with, I make a point to say, well, even if we do like in a food event, and I have to come up with 20 influencers, and you give me a list of who you want there, I'm also fighting for the Black influencers. I'm also fighting for the Black food bloggers to show up. I stand 10 toes down 365 days. But I shouldn't always have to be the only one fighting. You have to come to the table too. It's even with our food events. I've made it a point to mention, hey, so because we've been having these conversations now for weeks or whatnot. But I've made the point of, hey, we need the Black chefs. We need the Black restaurants at our events. We can have 60 restaurants here, but only 1 or 2 of them are Black owned. Out of 60, there's more chefs, there's more restaurants all up and down the line. And so we've had to have that conversations, and sometimes the conversations are tough, but I've made it a point to always say, well, hey, this is what we need to do. Or even if it's something like supporting our Black restaurants, because I do a lot in the hospitality space. And we can go and say, we need to support this restaurant and this restaurant. And I can say, I literally just had a conversation with someone, and they were like, why aren't they out there more? And I literally said, are you listening? Because I shared on my feeds. I know you watch. I know that other people have been sharing it. But the point is that if you're not looking for it, or if it doesn't fit what your aesthetic is or what you're used to. If it's outside of your comfort zone, it's not there. So
Right.
I can be the one to say it all day, but you have to be the one to put it up front too. Because as a consultant, as a freelancer, in the end, it's not my event. I can speak up for us, but our people also have to take it. And luckily enough, my people have been open to my suggestions. But I see some things like you have a panel of women and they're all white women or Spanish. And I'll say this because it has been confused. People say people of color. People of color are not Black.
Yes.
Let's first and foremost understand that. So you can have a Spanish person on panel. You can have as many white people on panel. You can have a Muslim on panel. But if you don't have a Black person on your panel, that's not diversity.
Well, I know.
I take a panel and listen to someone, and no one looks like me.
Right. Well, I know. I'm to go back to the question the comment that the person had about diversifying your portfolio. And when I first started off, that was a big thing. I got a lot of slack from that. Because my portfolio wasn't diverse. It was predominantly white people at the time, and I was getting slack from it. And I started realizing, okay, hey, back to the person's point is that you have to diversify. So I made it my point, and I made it my business to go and try to diversify my portfolio.
Can I ask
because
to you when you get? Sorry, go ahead.
Got a couple of questions too from Facebook also coming through. So, and then
okay, go ahead.
Yep, no, go Phil.
Oh no, I had to make it my business to try to find a way to diversify my portfolio and put more Black people in my portfolio purposely. Because the question is a valid question. You can't sit here and talk about diversity if you're not making a conscious effort to be diverse yourself. Go ahead, question, I'm sorry.
And I want to say, if it's something that I can be part of, let's all hold each other accountable. Call me out if you see the same thing over and over again. And if you're okay with that, I'll do the same, because I can't do it if we're not in it together.
Something I say to our clients all the time is you have to have honest conversations with us, and you have to tell us if something's not going right, because I can't read your mind. And I think that's the thing too, we as a community and as an industry too, we have to keep each other accountable and speak up. I have thick skin. I will say that. I've been in this business for 15 years now, and nothing really shakes me. And because I criticism is how I learn. If I'm not criticized, or if I'm not told, if I'm constantly being applauded and things like that too, you don't learn from that. So I think that's the thing too. It's I think a way to help us move forward with this too is continuing these conversations, but also keeping each other, like Nora just said, accountable, and speak up. It's just, if you offend somebody, that's shame on them at that point, because I feel like we've got to move past that.
Right, then they will, when they realize it, they'll come around, and that's how you bring change.
Yeah.
Does anybody believe that are there names that you would, this is a question that came in, but it's something that I wanted to, are there Black gatekeepers in the Tampa industry?
Black gatekeepers? Not that I can think of right offhand.
Let's fix that.
Look, someone said nope.
Nope.
Not at all.
We got work to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they should be a Black gatekeeper, because
Kamari, what were you saying?
They deserve to be a gatekeeper, whether they deserve to be that person. And then that goes back to one of the comments someone else said was I don't want to be hired because of the color of my skin.
Mm-hmm.
Kumar, you had something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, with the diversity, and something I've struggled with, because I am mixed, and I've been so when I first started my business, I was in Tallahassee, and my portfolio was far more diverse than it is in Tampa. So I ran my business there for years, and then I came here, and I had some Hispanic couples, white couples predominantly, and a few Black couples, and I have been trying, and that's something that's been bothering me. And I tell my husband every day, and he's probably shut up about it already. But I was since I moved to Tampa, I was I want more. So I've done styled shoots, and I try to not be involved in as many styled shoots that aren't having Black people in them purposefully, because I want that. And something that's been hard for me too is because I have a very diverse portfolio from when I was in Tallahassee. That was several years ago. My style has changed, and I switched camera gear, so it does not look the same at all. So I'm not going to show something from 4 years ago, not because of someone's skin, but literally because I have gotten a lot better and upgraded my gear. And it's been difficult for me. So I would love to learn how I can do that, because I show all my work personally. I know not a lot of people curate the work. I might show snippets of someone's wedding if I like this part better, as far as in my feed of Instagram in particular. However, I would love to learn how I can do that, because people hire me, and I try to share as much diversity. I have it on my, a line on my contact page that says I celebrate it, regardless of sex, gender, religion, race, ethnicity, all the things. I would love to learn, because I don't know I can't make people hire me.
Yeah,
literally, I cannot tell you to hire me.
Yeah.
So that's something that's difficult for me, a struggle I'd love to learn.
A question that was just asked on Facebook too is, how do they diversify their portfolio? And the question is phrased, I've photographed over 400 weddings. 2 have been a Black couple. How many interviews from Black couples? 2. Should I create a marketing campaign to attract Black couples? What would not be awkward? I'm not saying no, but I'd love to know to that, but I've not seen that done, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So,
I know what I
would say, okay, because my portfolio is, I believe is diverse. If it's not, then you let me know, because I am a multicultural wedding planner. I have to try to fit the white, the Asian, it's like, so I think I have a pretty diverse portfolio. But if you don't have a Black couple, reach out to a Black vendor. I mean, reach out to a Black vendor. And that's the thing, because I know a lot of people reach out to me and say, I want to work Indian wedding, whatever. And I really, really push that on my client, because when I do have a relationship, and especially those South Asian brides, they really want to see you photograph a South Asian wedding, because it's very important. But what I try to push is like, listen, I know this person, and I've worked with people that haven't done them, and I'm like, I vouch for you, because I'm like, I know them. If there's something that comes up they don't know, I will have a meeting with you and tell you, hey, I need this photograph. This is what's gonna happen. It's a long day, but I need you to capture this, and this is when it's going to happen. So I am here to vouch for you if you let me know. And I do put that in front of my clients. But if you have to do a style shoot to show that, okay, so they could see themselves, then just do that. Then it's easier for me to say, okay, they have photographed South Asian, but don't worry, because I had couples, because I do have a lot of mix, a lot of fusion weddings. So they're okay with it. They're okay with working with people that haven't photographed an Indian wedding, but I have to be able to vouch for you. So I can't just say, yes, I know you're gonna do it, but you have to do some kind of work too. Do a style shoot.
It was really cool. It was obviously styled shoots and, purposeful, shoots, but asking to be in the room. So finding these vendors that are doing the kind of work you want to do, and ask if you can just go work for free. Go be in the room, go second shoot, go lend a hand, be in the room and see what's going on, so that you are literally top of mind learning and you're part of it. Like, you can do that. You can go and ask to be a part of these things. You have to seek them out and then ask to be in the room.
And I know that if people are honest, then they know where their business comes from. So to answer directly the person on Facebook, whether they should have a marketing campaign where they reach out directly to Black people, I mean, you got to see where your business comes from. If your business comes from your Instagram account, well, then you need to show more Black people on your Instagram feed. and you need to tag these Black vendors so that it gets spread around. And if most of your business comes from other people in the industry, then they need to know you as the person who's looking for this.
Yes.
Instead of in the wrong way. Phil mentioned at the beginning of this, someone say, hey, we think you'd be a great fit because they're Black. Well, they need to be reaching out for that purpose. They need to know that hey, because Ashley went out and spoke to this coordinator, this event planner, and then, you know what, Ashley would be perfect for you because look at her feed. Have the proof, not just it shouldn't just be words, but go to where you know your business is going to be and show that face. You get business somehow. So show what you can do.
Say it, yeah. Just saying
it. Fear of tokenizing or approaching things in the wrong way. And the thing that I to the point of this overarching thing is that to not tokenize and to not just be jumping on a bandwagon or a hashtag that's happening right now. You have to show up today, tomorrow, and 10 years from now. And that's the difference in like how we're going to change anything, but also to all of your points. Don't ask to be in the room tomorrow.
They're watching, they're gonna see what you're doing now, especially like, what are you doing now? How fast are you responding? Are you doing the work? And then they're gonna keep watching. In 3 months, when you're not talking about it anymore, they're gonna know that, you know.
I would just say, because that's come up a couple times, let's take it upon ourselves, and when we're checking our people, let's also make sure that we're not alienating or villainizing anyone or accusing people of tokenizing, because we need all the allies that we can get right now. And as much as we're in here and we're focused on this, and we may have people in our circle that are focused on solving these challenges, there are plenty of people that just don't think it exists.
Yeah.
So we need to make sure we know who our friends are and never discourage someone from trying to, however you might describe it, jumping on the bandwagon. We got to have as much people engage with this as possible.
I think this is the opportunity. This space right now is allowing everyone to have these conversations and to point it out and to overcome the idea of tokenism and the idea of, exploitation, all that kind of stuff. Like it has to be pushed through. Otherwise, it will not change.
Well, I know, back to the question that the person had about how do I go about diversifying my portfolio. I know when I got to the point where I felt like it was, I should have been doing it. What I did was, everyone knows their numbers, because you got to remember at the end of the day, it's really a lot of what you're doing is about money. It's about making money. You want to make your money. So I knew what my numbers were. I knew exactly what my obstacles were when it came to signing my clients. When I got close to my numbers, as far as how much money I wanted to make, I was comfortable with my business-wise, I took money out of the equation when I talked to my clients, completely out of the equation. I would purposely seek out, like you said, Black clients, purposely seek them. I would go to the venues, I would talk to the coordinators, I would talk to the hotel, seeking out, going to where I knew. So when I sat down with and I never told them this. It was never a conversation that I was having. When I sat down, I knew that money was never the option. Budget was never going to be the issue. If they said to me, Phil, we like you as a photographer, then we're rolling. Because I've taken care of my part of it. I know that I have to put myself in a position financially first, because I have to take care of my business, I have to take care of my family, that I can be of service to someone.
I love that.
I can be of service to someone as much as I can. And if I'm not doing that, I'm selling myself short and everybody else around me short. If I need to diversify my portfolio, whether it be Black people, Indian, Hispanic, don't make a difference. If I want to diversify my portfolio, you can. You'll find a way to do it. And for me, a lot of it was finances. I was charging my dollar amount, what I was charging for my packages was so high that it was almost a lot of times pushing certain people out the door. Because I was doing bridal shows, I was doing stuff like that, and I wasn't getting any clients. And the reason I wasn't is because my prices were so high. It was just a different market. And then once I recognized that, because I was meeting all kinds of clients, I was meeting extremely diverse clients, but none of them were signing, and I couldn't understand why. And I was like, okay. So once I took money out of the equation, and it became about my work, and it became about how we connected, then it gave me the ability to diversify more, because I was doing the wrong thing and making it about money. I was making it about something that it shouldn't have been about. And then once I took that off the table, I started realizing, okay, the problem isn't that there's not enough Black clients. The problem was me. The problem was my approach. The problem was what I was doing. And once I understood that, and I put myself in a position to be of service, then things changed. Mm-hmm. Things changed. And not only did it change from a financial standpoint, everything changed. Because my ignorance at the time is that, you know, Black people aren't going to spend a certain amount of money. That was my ignorance, and that's what I based my conversation on. And then once I realized how wrong that was, changed everything for me. Changed everything. But once I took money out of the equation, I started realizing, you know, the downfall was me. It wasn't other people. It gave me the ability to diversify and be more genuine.
What do you mean by taking money off? Like, what is that? Practically speaking, what do you mean by that? Like,
so if you do a numbers game, let's say you want to make $100,000 a year, and you know you need X amount of clients to meet that number. Mm-hmm. Once I got that client, or I got that client that got to that number, anything I book from that is not about money. I can almost give away you can't afford me? Fine, I'll do it for free. Because I've already met my numbers now. I'm already satisfied with how much money I'm going to make. I'm not, because everything over that number is gravy now. But you have to first know your numbers. You have to know how much money you want to make. You have to be intentional about what you're doing. Just like you said before, you have to be intentional about going out and doing what you do. Once I knew and met my numbers, anything from that point on, I think for the first 5 years of doing weddings here in Florida, I always did, and I made this part of my package. I always did, not package, but my business structure. I always did 2 weddings a year for free. And the clients that end up getting that never knew until they came in. They came in, we talked, we went through the whole process. Because a lot of times clients won't come see you because of your dollar amount. They'll go, he's out of my price range. No, just come see me anyway. You never know what could happen. So once I met my dollar amount and I'm satisfied to that, I go, okay, this is a really, really good fit. We're all on the same page. We've all had that before where you have those clients. It's like, man, these are great clients. But what I don't want this to do is be about money. I've already met my numbers. Mm-hmm. Or I'm good on my numbers.
Yeah, there's a photographer in San Diego that's doing a call to dads, a call to Black dads for Father's Day, and structuring it where, you know, it's a donation, all of this kind of stuff. So it's a free shoot. And I was talking to her and I was like, can I copycat that? Can I run with that? And she was like, absolutely. And then I told another photographer friend about that. And she was like, should it be free? Should it be paid? Like, is it being free an insult? And I was really glad that we were having that conversation, because it's, for her to even bring that up, like, it needs to be free. It can be free. Like,
yeah, but that's got to fit. That's got to fit within your business plan. You can't just go around giving away free weddings. If you have
where you can invest, like what works for you. Is it giving your time and doing the shoots? Is it setting aside 2 weddings a year? What is it like? What are you willing to invest?
I'm probably just because I'm getting a bit of the conversation from you, a summary of it. So when she said, was it an insult for Black men for it to be free, or just because of insult to her and her business?
For the beneficiaries, would it be insulting to give away shoots to Black people specifically and have it be free? Okay. Like, to assume that it needed to be free. And I thought it just needs to be free. Like, this is just something that you want to be doing, and you can say that, you know, send a donation instead to XYZ. Like, there's a lot of ways you can frame it. But if you feel like you want it to be free, then it should be. And you shouldn't be worried about it being perceived on any side. Like, I thought it was a really good idea as an investment in making your portfolio diverse and in people and in your business.
Yeah. This is a question that was also submitted in advance, but I think we're already covering a lot of the sentiment. But the thought is, I see some white business owners featuring Black business owners in our industry, and I think they have the best intentions, but I feel conflicted about it. Is this something you all appreciate and think is the right time to do so? Or do you feel like this is just a Band-Aid and doesn't help the situation at all if people weren't featuring your businesses before? What can white business owners in our industry say that would have a positive effect and move our industry forward? Georgette.
Go on, Georgette.
Well, I am super, super grateful because this has been a situation that people have been saying, I haven't realized this before. Fine, we hear you. But if I've never had a conversation with you, and now all of a sudden, here's another Black business owner, like I feel a certain way about it because I'm like, I've never had a conversation with you. You actually didn't even text me and say, I see you. But now I'm tagged into a post that says another Black business owner. It's like, I don't know how to feel. And I've had a few before that I've worked with before. I appreciate it truly. But guys, it's like, have a conversation. I'm a human. And then what? Tomorrow I'm going to see you at a networking event and you're going to say, oh, nice to meet you. Because I've had that happen to me before. I've met someone and 2 of them on my Facebook page and I've 3 times, oh, nice to meet you. Wait, what? Like, so if you're not going to have a conversation with me, then please don't say I'm sharing another Black business to support when you don't know my story. We don't talk. So if we're going to change that, we need to have conversations. So it's not just like, let me just do it because that's what everyone else is doing. Even if you're like, oh my gosh, I saw your work and you're amazing. How can I didn't even see your work, but talk to me, you know?
But I think
is that I appreciate you wanting to, because I've seen the hashtag amplify melanated voices, right? And I understand the premise behind it, but if you, and I think that is, on one side, I think that is great. Great, you're getting this business out there. Great, this, especially in this time of COVID, Black restaurants are struggling. Restaurants, period, are struggling, but more so those Black restaurants that you as a white person may not travel to the quote unquote hood to go to, right? So I appreciate that, but what is your end game? So when this is all over with, are you still amplifying that melanated voice? Or are you going back to business as usual?
Time tells. What happens is, and this has kind of been my approach, because I've gotten emails, texts, and Facebook messages from people I haven't talked to in years. But I think time is going to dictate all of that. I'm like you said, Georgia, I'm grateful. I appreciate it. Thank you. You know, I'm humble about it.
I think we should encourage it. And I get people that might get the wrong impression from it or think that it's not genuine, but the advice that I would give is like, make sure it's genuine, ask them how you can best promote their business, tell them what and why you want to do it, and make sure that it's something that doesn't stop. But if you're wondering whether or not you should do it, you should do it.
Do it.
Do it. And then follow through exactly the way you're saying, like, talk to me, don't just share it, like, but share, you know, the baby step. We need those 2, so gotta just do it.
You know, it's funny because, you know, especially since everything that's been going on, you know, and I'm normally, people that know me, normally I'm really not too out there all the time. You know, I try to be a little more subdued, but I've been really a lot more vocal lately. And especially with everything that's been going on. And like you said, I've been getting a lot of people calling me, texting me, hey, Phil, blah, 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 blah. It's like now all of a sudden, everybody wants to hear what I have to say. It's like, but before all of this, no one had an interest. No one had an interest. I was just the old dude that's been in this for 100 years, you know, and everyone's seen and knows. But now it's, people want to hear what you have to say all of a sudden, which is a good thing, which is really a good thing, because I think once you know better, you do better. And there's nothing wrong with change. You know, you just got to be willing to say, okay, let's make the change. But like I said, time will tell. These same people that, you know, have been texting me and
then you do that, and then you learn the next thing.
Yes, as long as it's not checking off like a checkbox, whatever, whatever. You
like,
get
I
it.
need you to continue the support past.
Yes.
Yeah.
Know what their story is and know why you want to promote them. And just like they need our perspective. And if we've got their ears, we've got their attention, then we've got to speak up as much as we can, because I think things don't change without hearing the perspective. And I did mention before, I really appreciated your comments too. And I just want to like really make it clear, like with the emotion that you show, like with what you're doing here, it just, I can't get over the fact that there are people who truly just will not even begin to listen to have this conversation. And they'll see this all as a waste of time. They'll see it as a non-issue. And I don't know exactly how we reach them, but there are enough that are in between us and them that we can sway. And it's just going to come from hearing our stories. They need to know our perspective. They need to really know what's going on. I think they just don't know.
They literally.
Well, you know, here's where I disagree with that. You know, I think there's going to be, like you said, there's going to be people who just don't get it. And they're going to be that way. And now I think, let me say we, I'm saying me. I have learned to accept those people for who they are and use my energy in the direction I think is going to be productive. If you're going to be you and you refuse to change, I'm not putting my energy in you. I'm going to move on to the next, and I'm not going to be upset. That's who you want to be, bro. That's your business. I'm just going to move on to the next situation, move on to the next person, move on to the next positive experience, and just chalk that up, because everything is about learning experiences. Every situation, good, bad, and different. And you have to take it as if, okay, hey, that's who you are. That's fine. Now, if I continue to put myself in front of you, then I'm the fool. So I have to recognize and say, okay, hey, you know, from a distance, two fools arguing, you can't tell them apart. I have to make the decision to say, I'm not going to stand in front of you and continue on with that. I'm just going to let that go. I have a brother that says there's always 10%ers in the world. You just got to realize that 10%, you just got to let it go. And use your energy for the ones that you know and the situations that you know you can make an effect in.
Sure, I could totally appreciate that.
I think something too that we all need to note is that even if we wanted to go back to our old normal, it's going to be a while until our work looks and feels somewhat like it used to, if it ever does, right? And I'm the queen of out of sight, out of mind sometimes. And so I want to again say, let's have some sort of accountability circle with everybody here too, that like when we get busy and when we need our people that have our back, that we still challenge ourselves, even if it's 1% every single time, because if you're 1% better every day, it still adds up. And I think that's the other thing, that this has felt like such a mountain range for people to try to conquer. And then they get excited and they want to do it, but they may not have an event for 6 months. They may not have anything booking right now to try and change things up. So it's also on us. Let's find creative ways to, I don't know, you know, like our industry, like we feel like we have to, you know, enlist with publications, which I do want to say, Anna Coates, I don't know if she got to make it on here, but she wanted to make it a point that she has always wanted as much diversity as possible. She's with Marry Me Tampa Bay. And she asks again, anything you have, she would like you to submit to her. The kitties, that's the diversity we're talking about, you know?
Yeah.
So I just want to challenge all of us to find ways outside of a styled shoot, outside of a magazine article, outside of you know, our Zoom backgrounds, to collaborate and come up with ways to show what we're capable of, because I don't think, you know, a lot of people are visual learners. We have to show them. So I'm in if you guys are too.
For sure. But I think honestly,
Absolutely.
you know, I think, and you know, I have lunch with a couple of photographers and we have these kind of conversations all the time. I think the big thing is, like situations like this, is the thing that helps push things forward the most is the humanity. If you sit and actually talk to someone, not texting or anything, like, hey, let's go to coffee and talk. Because after being on this panel, seeing all of your faces, I want to work with every one of you because I've talked with you. I've sat here and listened to you. And I've listened to your stories and I've felt your stories. So now I want to be a part of what it is you're doing. And that's, I think, comes from actually sitting down and talking to people. Don't get me wrong, you know, technology is great, but I'm a face-to-face kind of dude. I like to sit down and get a feel for a person. And I think that's a huge part of what we're lacking now, because I know when I first started, that was almost mandatory. You had to sit and see and talk to people to get a feel for who they are. And I think when you do that, it becomes difficult now for me just to see Nick as another dude, because I've listened to him and I heard his voice and I can hear in his voice who he is and what he does. It's hard for me just to see him as a name now. When I see him on Facebook now, it's going to be, that's Nick, because we've talked. You know what I mean? So you got to have that. You got to have that gap to cover.
I think there's a big social disconnection with our world. I mean,
yeah.
Right? Even though we're so socially connected, but I think it's so important, like, for these conversations. And I think that's part of what our issue is and why it continues, because people can hide behind a computer screen or things like that too and say things. But until you're confronted, or until you reach out to that person, you might judge them thinking that they're one way, but until you reach out to get to know what their heart really is too. And I think that's important. I mean, I'm learning that more and more too, and just seeing that, like, these conversations, and that's how you build your relationships. That's why we have great relationships with our clients, because we spend so much time talking to them.
Genuine relationships.
Genuine, right.
Genuine.
That's a difference too. But I think it's just, you have to, but like you said, put yourself around positive people and put yourself around people that have the same, you know, mindset and things like that too. I think is important. And you can't, unfortunately, I wish we could change some people's minds, but I don't think that's an easy thing to do, or it's going to happen. But you just have to put your best foot out there, voice out there, whatever, and just maybe help them see something. And I think a lot of people are right now too, with everything that's going on, which is great. But we just have to continue this conversation too, and just, I don't know, be appreciative of each other too. And I think that's the thing everybody has a different story. Everybody has a different experience. You have to respect them for that. And that's it too. And people like when you take the time to reach out and learn what their story is and learn what they have to say. And it goes both ways. So I think it's, reaching that hand out is just in helping each other. So
yeah, I think if we started, if we all started here with each other, this is my first time meeting some of you guys, and just reach out and have a conversation with you guys, meet up for coffee, meet up for lunch, and get to know you. And you'll have knowledge that you can share with us. I may not know, where to turn or who to reach out to for wanting to, broaden my portfolio. And so, I think if we started within ourselves, I think it could just be like kind of a chain ripple effect, hopefully.
And to everybody's point, this is a conversation I've had a lot. I mean, my business is a baby, but it's a conversation I've had a lot over the last year and a half. And I am a big believer in, be so good they can't ignore you, but also that we don't do each other any favors when we don't just tell each other how it is. And so I have had to have conversations over time that say, your level of service isn't something that I've been able to put in front of my clients. And I try to give specific information, and I'm sure there's people that dislike me now. But I think that that's also something that's lacking in our local market. Sometimes we get very happy to be the big fish in a small pond, and we forget about the world out there. And there's incredible talent in Tampa. And I think that more often than not, people could be charging more, people could be doing better work, people could be just doing better, right? So I also invite us all to challenge each other in that aspect, because I mean, planner to planner, we may never get to work together necessarily, but I freelance. So sometimes I do see that. And then I have the other one.
Yeah.
So I know you've all brought it up before, that it doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If we're just, again, tokenizing, just to have somebody of a minority on your team, but that's something I'd like to offer too. Like, and I want it back. I want to know how to do better, and I want to help anybody I can.
Yeah. Well, and I was talking to a planner yesterday, and and there's a lot of business to go around. And I think, there's different clients for each of us too. And we grow this network, and we know who we can kind of work with or refer people to too, from planner to planner. But in Nora's point too, like, we're constantly looking for additional help for events and things like that too, because some of our events are big or, just whatever. But I think it's just creating those relationships. And then also for, other aspects of the event industry too. Just there is enough business to go around. You just have to be able to be, I don't know. That's the networking that I think we need to really kind of focus on too, is understanding what everybody has to offer and taking the time to do that too. So.
Yeah.
Can we all offer some closing thoughts? And maybe this needs to be a part 2, 3, 4, 5 cajillion. But for tonight, we've covered a lot, and I'm really, really grateful for it. We can start with Georgette.
Oh. At the end of the day, I'm so grateful because I have amazing friends in the industry, and I know there's amazing people I still need to know. So I just don't want to ever walk into a room and feel like, because I work my booty off to get to where I am. And I don't ever want to walk into a room and feel like I am not good enough. Even though I did the inner work, so I know I'm worth it. So at this point, it's like, it's your issue. So, but I have to be fair in saying that I get into my la la land as well, in my bubble. So I think I also have to make a conscious effort to reach out as well, because I'm like, hey, it's like there's great people that I haven't worked with, but I could be reaching out as well. So I have to say that is something that I need to do and work on, because I get into my world. So, and but at the end of the day, we don't want to forget why we're all here. We want the same thing. We want to stand for humanity. And if that's something everybody could get on the same page with, then let's do this together as an industry as well, so we could move forward in this world. So
amazing. McTunes?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, first of all, thanks to everybody for being here. And it's nice hearing all your stories. It's opened my eyes to try and do a little bit more of getting outside my bubble as well. But, just reminding myself and others, it's not a bad thing to be, vulnerable right now, because that's the only way, we're going to move forward. But I think at times the issue, especially me personally, I'll have a chip on my shoulder, I've been that way my whole life. Not necessarily showing it to others, but, I'll call people out to say, hey, you're, so-and-so's here because you're trying to prove something. So it's hard for me personally sometimes to let down that guard and to trust people, especially if you don't know if someone, you might think you do. And like Philip said, sometimes you just someone's mind. Sometimes they won't see the truth. They live a lie. So I think I've learned a lot tonight, especially moving forward. I think I appreciate you guys and giving me, an insight on the things that you deal with, and, not necessarily, all bad. It's nice to hear about your business, and, maybe something I could get into later. It's definitely inspiring, because I myself don't have a business, but one day I will. It's just nice, hearing your point of views and what you've been through. And I wouldn't mind having some coffee with you guys. So I like it dark. So I will see you there. And I just want to say peace and love to everybody.
Love you, Nick.
Philip.
Oh, this was great. I enjoyed it. I think that, like I said before, man, if we continue to understand that we just check our people and check ourselves, and realize that humanity is the thing that's going to keep us moving forward, and realize that mistakes don't define you. Be correct your mistakes and move forward, and it's okay. And realize that change is good. And just because you change from one thing to another thing doesn't mean that you're completely bad. So just keep moving forward. Enjoy, being you, and enjoy the beauty of learning everything that, life has to offer and the people around you have to offer you. And again, just check your people, man.
Ashley and Joe.
Nope, you guys are on mute.
Oh, good, because the cats
were going crazy. Wow.
Just thank you for putting this on, Nor and Anna. Thank you all for coming here and spending the time, for sharing your experiences, being vulnerable, sharing the ideas. I'm really excited. I think the time is now. So if you feel this in your heart, if your eyes are opening, just jump in. You're not going to learn until you start. And I would love if we could create some kind of like think tank between us and really, actively schedule it on our calendars. Let's do the work. It's doing work. Let's get together. Let's have ideas. Let's test and measure. We're not going to have a silver bullet. This is not a quick fix. We need to join the continuum and realize that we need to dig in and have the stamina for the long haul.
And I truly believe that there are more with us than against us, and that there are more that are willing to help and want to help and don't know how. And we need to be willing to educate people and encourage them to really learn. They need to open their minds, and they need to know what's really going on out there. And we need to encourage them to participate in this movement any way that they can. But you guys have all been wonderful. I really, really enjoyed hearing from all of you.
Thank you. Jason and Antonio?
Yeah, this has been definitely a great experience, and we thank all of you guys for being here and discussing all of these topics. And I think fear and just the unknown are scary things and what hold a lot of people back. But I think if we it's okay to make mistakes. We're gonna we all make mistakes. And I know going away from this, I personally feel more inspired to reach out to each and every one of you guys and learn your stories, learn about your business.
Good coffee.
Yeah, definitely. And there's just so much more that I want to educate myself with as well. So I'm thankful that we were part of this.
It's definitely refreshing hearing everybody's stories, everybody's testimonies, and we definitely look forward to reaching out to each and every one of you in the future and setting things up and working together to impact change.
Yes. Kamari?
Echoing a lot of this, what everyone else is saying. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate everything. I do agree with what Ashley and Joe were saying as well, just continuing to do it. And I know that we've all said this, but also kind of keeping people accountable for it as well, because I know that there's a lot of people who find trends, and this is annoying that people might find this as a trend / will do it like it is. But I would also say, though I don't think that we need to feel like, talking Black people don't need to feel like we need to educate someone. I think maybe I personally have the grace to do that, because if they're asking questions, I think that's good. I'm not going to shut them down, personally. So I think it's great. I've had people reach out that yes, it's weird if I'm like, I haven't talked to you since I was 10. Why are you talking to me? But I'm like, wait, okay, you're trying. So that is something that I've been doing a lot, and just taking the time to chat with and like a friend of mine was like, now I know why, which sorry to go off on a tangent, but she's like, now I know why you were always scared and didn't want to pull over in Tallahassee's surrounded by really, really rural southern towns. I always felt scared, was told not to go to the bathroom in there like multiple times. A lot of keys that you had to go in there, and I wasn't allowed to use the restroom in multiple places. They just literally wouldn't let me in. So she's like, now I understand why you didn't want to stop. And I was like, I told you, but she like did not understand, did not empathize or understand. So now that is just one instance of she's like, okay, I get it. So it's great. Keep up the conversations and don't feel like, have grace in it as well on both ends.
Mm-hmm. Skimming the surface. Toya?
First of all, thanks, Noor, for making me step outside my comfort zone. I will say that the biggest thing is, if there's anything that we all can take away from this, and if you want to be an ally, I think that you have to check your people, check your bias, see me, not just as a woman, but see me as a Black woman, because that matters. But also listen to me, hear me. I think that's part of the reason why we've been in the place that we have, is because no one listens. They'd rather stay in their comfort zone. So I'd say that for the time being, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Have the tough conversations with your people. I, like Kamari said, I am, and I've been showing grace. It's hard, but I've been showing grace to people to have the conversations with them and for them to get an understanding. I may not be always in the headspace. I think that when you ask someone, can I talk to you? I think that you first and foremost should ask them, do you have the headspace mentally? Because I know for me as a Black woman going through this for 39 years, it's hard. So that compiled with COVID, it's not a great situation for a lot of people. So, especially me. So I think that we have to be mindful of our mentals and respect that.
You brought up a really good point that I don't think a lot of us have acknowledged, that you didn't see this coming. You didn't have your files prepared. This was not an event you had a timeline for. And all of you and more have shown so much grace and so much patience in our dumbass questions. I'm sorry, but like, I mean, I didn't know how to ask somebody if they identified as Black, right? Like, these are just things, I had a stigma around the word Black. I can now move on because I asked the dumb question and because you guys didn't punch me for asking it. But I just want to say thank you again. And I do want to bring this back to Empower Events Tampa. It started in response to COVID, which isn't something small, but it's clearly already something much bigger. So I want to encourage anybody that's listening to donate, nominate, share the message. We have to do better, right? So we have to be around to do it.
And I encourage anybody, we're looking for more ambassadors to be a part of the program too. And so anybody, participants, everybody on the panel here too, I want you guys to be involved because we need voices to represent everybody. So I encourage that too, because we need to have, I think this is also a great time too, to kind of expand upon and follow through and keep everybody accountable in regards to, from a networking standpoint, from just any aspect that you guys have. And I want the feedback and I want to know how to make the program bigger and better. Because hopefully COVID won't be here forever and we can move on to another, something that's to help within our industry. Yeah. But I think just long-term, I think together we can do something really great here and kind of create this movement too. And I just think I appreciate you all too, and just your honesty and vulnerability and everything too. And I don't know, you all inspire me, and thank you. So.
Thank you.
It's been an honor. So.
Thank everyone that watched also. That took the time
everybody.
And thank you for all the participants that have hung in there with us too. So if anybody
Thanks,
does,
everyone.
This will be recorded, or this has been recorded, so and if anybody wants to share this beyond.
Share this. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful night.
Take care.
Guys.
All right, bye-bye.